I discovered that one of my supervisors runs a podcast after hours in which he discusses his staff members. Posted by u/Throra Invisible 2. No, the headline isn't a typo. I'm a 19-year-old female, and initially believed my buddy was just messing with me when he mentioned it. But he had recently learned about it, and informed me since my name came up in one of the episodes. To give some context, this is a regular office position where I'm interning primarily as a customer service representative over the phone, all while attending university. A colleague named John showed me the show after someone else pointed it out to him, and that's how the truth came out. In brief, the host is one of our supervisors, Josh, who's 29 and male, along with his buddy who isn't employed at our workplace. The podcast isn't entirely focused on staff. He covers topics like athletics and current events too, but there was a particular section dedicated to workplace anecdotes connected to his role. For clear reasons, I won't reveal the show's actual name. One segment John played for me described a woman who took maternity leave and the temporary person who filled in for her. He cracked jokes contrasting the two, mentioning their real first names and even referring to the substitute in a certain way. But the part concerning me centered on my old Instagram account. Basically, I stopped using Instagram ages ago. My final upload was 4 full years back, during high school when I was only 15. Perhaps I ought to have set it to private sooner. I removed the entire profile just this week. During the episode, he explained that while some supervisors follow one another and certain staff members, a handful he didn't follow prompted him to look them up so he could better understand his group, which is how he stumbled upon my profile. He mentioned that I possessed an undisclosed skill in dancing back in high school that I'd never shared with him. He teased that it must be because I didn't want guys approaching me. He went on to remark, "Her boyfriend is surely pleased with how limber she is." Despite her being unattached, his co-host chimed in that this explained why she uploaded those clips and suggested her appearance alone wasn't enough. Josh then quipped whether I remain that limber nowadays, and his friend suggested tossing an item so I'd have to stoop over. At the office, Josh is known for his playful humor, but watching that clip left me stunned. The content is hosted on YouTube, his face isn't visible, yet his full name appears in the description. My friend now wants to bring this up to human resources, after informing the woman who'd been on maternity leave. Still, he's uncertain whether additional steps are needed first, beyond gathering key details timestamps before approaching them, and he believes we should present the issue jointly. So my main question, is our plan the right approach? And should we take other preparations ahead of time to be fully organized, maybe even seek legal guidance like speaking with an attorney? Top relevant comments commenter, human resources is there to safeguard the organization, not the workers. Results can differ, but keep that in mind constantly. HR isn't on your side. Record every detail independently. The show probably violates several internal rules, and certain remarks might qualify as sexual harassment. You definitely ought to submit a joint official grievance. At this stage, there's no real basis yet for involving legal counsel. Only if the inappropriate conduct persists or retaliation occurs, even something like a shift in duties, should you explore legal options then. Ops reply, "We're preparing copies of the episodes plus the description listing his name and all proof tying it to him for when we meet them. Thanks for highlighting the HR aspect. This is my very first experience raising something with HR, so I truly wasn't sure what to anticipate. Update, 11 months later as I type this now, I've already left that workplace." Following the suggestions we got, my colleague and I approached HR. We utilized a YouTube downloading tool to save the relevant episodes that named staff members, anticipating they might get taken down once he became aware of any review. I specifically clarified to them that the dancing footage he referenced about me dated from when I was considerably younger. We also brought up his insulting remarks concerning the colleague who'd taken maternity leave. We supplied them with direct links together with a USB drive holding the saved clips, and at that moment it seemed to go smoothly. Afterward, we had just one additional session where they informed us they discussed the matter with the supervisor. Those conversations happened separately for my colleague and me. Around then, the episodes vanished, and the supervisor faced no termination, at least not during the remaining months I stayed. That second session marked the final communication we received before long periods of no response, though my former colleague and I suspect the cause. Basically, all the supervisors, including the pair from HR at our location, are very close-knit. They frequently head out for sushi right after work hours in the shopping area next to our building. Plus, they connect with each other across social platforms. That said, from what we observed prior to contacting HR, the supervisor's podcast account wasn't connected to his personal profiles. So honestly, we weren't anticipating strong action when they're essentially buddies who share Instagram pictures together, even featuring the HR personnel in group shots. Several months passed without any further word after that follow-up, and meanwhile the podcast hosting supervisor started acting a bit off toward me, curt replies, odd glances, things like that. The maternity leave colleague also lodged her own complaint once we informed her of his remark about her, yet as far as we know, zero resulted from it. Eventually, I submitted my resignation notice, and that concluded everything. His channel remains active and releases fresh content, though from my last look, it no longer includes workplace or colleague-related tales. My colleague friend mentioned he wouldn't be shocked if the rest of the supervisors were already aware of the podcast, considering their tight bonds. Around the period we first went to HR, I started job hunting elsewhere because his behavior genuinely felt unsettling. Oh, and I overlooked mentioning one more remark from the clip about me. He suggested awarding a reward to whoever demonstrated the most impressive split at the yearly holiday gathering as a method to check whether I retained that ability. The office holds lighthearted activities during the holiday event. The entire concept just struck me as really uncomfortable. By then, I'd already departed, but it's disturbing to realize a supervisor I once viewed as totally ordinary turned out to behave so inappropriately. Second update. 8 months later, one of my largest regrets from that previous role was skipping legal consultation prior to approaching HR. Plenty advised going straight to HR, and my family encouraged the same. Being only 19 then, I followed that guidance, but looking back, I wish I'd trusted my initial gut feeling. It might never have reached a courtroom, yet an attorney perhaps could have guided us on the best way to present things to HR and maybe even secure some form of resolution. According to a few opinions. I'm revisiting this now due to a fresh episode Josh uploaded that my former colleague alerted me to. In it, Josh and his co-host discussed a recent position he accepted after departing our former office. Within that installment, he reflected on aspects of his prior employment as well. He explained the halt in workplace anecdote segments and how an individual reported it to HR. He noted that those kinds of stories would resume at the fresh workplace, except with invented names to avoid any accusations. Even while claiming he wouldn't delve deeply into the HR situation. He described how somebody took issue with his admission of researching employees' social accounts to get to know them better, referring to a now-removed episode. He added that certain profiles surfaced unexpectedly, similar to Instagram's friend recommendations. Furthermore, he argued that nobody should feel upset if others view their content since it was made public. If privacy was truly desired, the material never should have been shared at all. Although he avoided naming me directly, he described me as the one involved in dance who later filed an HR complaint against him. He also noted that I eventually exited the organization and tended to stay reserved, which prompted his search. He insisted his remarks concerning me were merely humorous and that I failed to handle them lightly. He further mentioned proceeding with his concept for the holiday event, where managers propose activities, including prizes to determine who performed the finest split. But I wasn't present since I'd already quit. The reality that they permitted the very game he'd described in the saved clip I handed HR, the one about checking my splits capability, indicates how lightly they regarded my grievance, unless they somehow overlooked it or skipped viewing the complete recording. The whole episode consisted of justifications for his actions, with the sole takeaway being to anonymize names in future work-related content. He additionally labeled my teenage dance uploads as attention-seeking posts and claimed I weaponized them via HR. Given his latest upload indirectly alluding to me, I contacted an advisor at my current workplace to inquire whether it would be suitable to inform his new employer, the one he'd named in the podcast, regarding the prior incidents. Backed by saved evidence of him objectifying me and disparaging that other former colleague from the removed content. The advisor confirmed it would be fitting. She further highlighted how he blatantly objectified me regarding flexibility and then carried out an actual contest about it during the holiday celebration. Thus, sufficient grounds exist to hopefully stop similar behavior elsewhere once I make the attempt. The friend who notified me about this episode is willing to support my account too. I'd like to note again how interconnected the supervisors were at my former workplace. A couple of them are now engaged, as verified through social media. Many regularly dine together post-shift at a nearby sushi spot, yet you'd spot pictures of them at additional events online, including the senior HR staff. I'm relieved to no longer be part of that environment because receiving genuine assistance felt unattainable when they're basically personal friends. Top relevant comments commenter, utterly shocking. At most, she was 15 in those flexibility clips. Not only did he sexualize her, he then replicated the concept company-wide for his and his pals' twisted amusement. I truly hope she contacted the new employer, and they show more concern than his previous clique did. Why do folks create podcasts gossiping about people in their real lives without consent? Another recent one mocked a timid, struggling with mental health housemate. Far too many assume they're captivating enough for everyone else to stay silent and tune in. I enjoy podcasts, yet for society's sake, perhaps everyone should quit producing them. Commenter 2, leadership failures of this sort ensure individuals like Josh never truly grow. Numerous accounts exist of young women being objectified over sports like dance, gymnastics, etc., which attract types like Josh and his co-host. Still, it's unsurprising given how the supervisors routinely socialize over meals and share event photos, even alongside HR staff, revealing a severe lack of workplace boundaries. They likely dismissed his remarks as harmless banter. Third update, 3 months later, this will be my final revisit to the topic. I'd moved past Josh more than a year ago after departing my old job, only for John to remind me via his newest episode, referencing me from the prior update. I've since requested John stop sharing any further news about Josh because it's upsetting, and I've blocked Josh across all platforms. John and I contacted Josh's current employer using the identical materials we gave my former company. We detailed his remarks about the maternity leave colleague, the unsettling comments directed at me, plus the saved segments. We additionally referenced his recent episode, where he griped about my HR report and declared work anecdotes would restart at the new place. Nevertheless, despite our full disclosure, Josh continues employment there. He honored his word by restarting the workplace story portions at the fresh job and has released recent content about settling in. Maybe they disregard it since his face stays hidden, though he clearly identified the previous organization, while now employing pseudonyms for staff references. My therapist concurs that it's time to let go, and affirmed, we went above and beyond what's required. It frustrates me how the system often shields individuals like Josh who act so openly without facing repercussions, similar to a prominent political figure leading our nation right now. His former workplace even endorsed the splits gag concerning me by permitting him to run a splits contest at the holiday party, precisely the notion he'd floated to verify if I still could. I hadn't included this earlier, but in that now-removed episode where he objectified me, referencing my Instagram footage from age 15. Josh even quipped that he may have pleasured himself while watching gymnasts previously. I conveyed that detail, complete with the saved clip and exact timestamp, to both his prior and present employers, yet zero action followed. I'm choosing to move forward because dwelling on it only stirs anger. Also, for everyone still messaging me urging a lawsuit against Josh, the initial episode discussing me occurred over 3 years back, and I'm prepared to leave it behind. Top relevant comments. Commenter, sigh, classic instance of the guys protecting their own. Commenter 2, HR demonstrated its real function here, shielding the business, never the staff. This guy brazenly objectified a teenager, stood by it years afterward, and his big takeaway was simply switching to aliases. Truly revolting, though regrettably predictable. I'm relieved Op is letting go, because holding onto that anger indefinitely isn't right for her, regardless of how much he merited actual accountability. Commenter 3, at this stage Op ought to just direct Reddit to the podcast. I can think of one guaranteed method to force Josh to quit.